Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out this video. If you are a first-time visitor, thanks for checking out this channel. I hope you find some cool videos that you like. I talk mostly about chronic illness and just how to be successful and live a successful life with that. If you have seen any of my other videos, they're probably about prednisone. I talk a lot about that. This is the second video in a series about living successfully with chronic illness, and the first one was on perspective and chronic illness. This week we're going to talk about control and chronic illness. Now, if you have or seeking control and chronic illness, if you saw my last video on perspective and chronic illness, I just have to apologize. I was trying to get these videos out every 2 weeks. That didn't happen. I ended up getting really sick and it kind of set me back a little bit, but I'm back on my game with a voice again, and so I am super stoked to put this video out there. So when you talk about taking control or being in control of your life, when you have a chronic illness, it seems like there's a big lack of control. And that might not be for everybody. I know for me personally, since my illness touches on to so many aspects of my life, it can feel like there's a lot of things that I don't have as much control over as I'd like to. And I wanted to tell you, and I hope you'll understand that I'm saying this out of love and as somebody who has absolutely been in the shoes of somebody with a chronic illness, is that I think there's a lot more control that we can take than what we really realize. And I wanted to first illustrate with this story. If you watched my last video, I talked about a time when I got really, really sick and had to go into Barnes. I was literally dying, and so I got flown over to Barnes, where I ended up going into a coma for a few days, and then a couple days later ended up waking up in the ICU. So that is it was kind of a really dramatic, kind of crazy situation. And in this story, this is maybe 2 or 3 days after I woke up in the ICU. I was still very, very sick, and I had, one of my problems was that I had lots of fluid and blood in my lungs. And so while I was in the coma, the doctors were able to pull a lot of that out. But when I woke up, I was still having a lot of trouble breathing and was on a lot of oxygen. And at Barnes, I don't know how much you guys know about it, but Barnes is a Jewish hospital, and they believe in treating illness very holistically. And what that means is they believe in not just treating you physically, but also mentally and spiritually, emotionally, all sorts of just all-encompassing. Every bit of you, they believe in treating. And so they have these holistic coaches that will kind of go from room to room, and I saw one in the ICU. Now, I'm kind of ashamed to say I was pretty skeptical about holistic treatments. I never really known much about it, but it kind of seemed like a lot of kind of foofiness, and I really wasn't sure what to think about it. And so this holistic coach came in. I really didn't know what to expect. She came in, and I was kind of all alone in the ICU, and she told me, she said, "Angela, what can I do for you today? What can I help you with?" And, you know, when you're in the ICU and you've just kind of, I was pretty healthy before I'd gone into the ICU. I was about 19 years old. Now, I'd had a chronic illness for many years prior to that, but this was a completely new situation that I never dealt with before, and I'd never been this sick before. And so I didn't really think she could help me with a whole lot. I had been used to being sick, not this sick again, but I'm used to being sick. And so when she came in, I just kind of was like, well, you know, I'd like to be able to breathe a little bit better. That would be great. And I kind of said this a little bit sarcastically, not to be rude, but just because I didn't really think there was a whole lot that she could really help me with. And that was kind of like my joke, and then maybe we would think of something. I thought she was going to say, well, you know, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. I was still on all this oxygen. But she said, okay, Angela. She took a look at my oxygen saturation and said, okay, I think we can make that number go up. And I was just kind of like, what in the world? I was just kind of joking. I didn't really think that we could change that. She's like, but I think we can. And so that's what we went about trying to do. So she just had me really focus on each and every breath. Just really focus on bringing in and bringing out. And it was very painful at first. Anybody who's been in this type of situation knows that when your lungs have kind of atrophied a little bit, when they're not working, and you've still got fluid and stuff, kind of gunk on your lungs, it's really sharp and painful to breathe in and breathe out. But she just had me keep working on it. She said, just keep focusing. Bigger breaths. And because I was breathing really shallow and fast. And it took a while, but I remember looking at the machine and looking at the number for my oxygen and seeing that number finally go up. And I had no idea that I could control something like my oxygen. I thought that literally had everything to do with how much crap was in my lungs and how much oxygen they were giving me. But I actually had a whole lot more control, clearly, than what I thought I did. And I say this to you, not saying that that wasn't a very real, serious situation, illness that I was dealing with. And I say this, and I hope you know that I am not denying the validity of anything that you are going through. There are many illnesses out there that are very, very real and very destructive in our lives. I say this to you just because I think even in the small things like breathing, even if it's just a small thing like breathing, you have the potential to have a whole lot more control. So there's some tips I wanted to give you that I came to the conclusion that are very helpful when it comes to taking back control when you struggle with something like illness, chronic illness in your life. The first one is to get rid of the word impossible. We have to remember that your mind is very much like a computer, and you have to really control the thought process. When you say the word impossible, then you are literally eliminating all of the possibilities that you could actually control whatever it is that you think is impossible. For example, if that holistic coach had come in and when I said, I would like to breathe better, she just said, oh, Angela, that's not really something I can help you with, I would never have tried to focus on it. It just wouldn't have been something that I was open to. I would have had no idea I could control that. And so when you say, oh, something is impossible because you feel or you're scared that your body has this limitation, you might instead try to say, well, it's an obstacle, it's a challenge that I'm overcoming, but it is not impossible. Never use the word impossible. Second thing, control your thought processes. You have to really understand that your mind is like a computer. If you put just junk and viruses and gross nastiness that can contaminate everything, that is all the negative things that you think about and that you speak about, you're contaminating your brain. And so that's what's going to come out of you, a lot of negativity. When you put a lot of positive, successful, uplifting things into your mind, it flows back out. And this really can change everything. It can change clearly your emotional state, whether you're depressed or not. It can change you even physically. And that is not to say that you still don't have a ton of medicines that you have to deal with. That's just saying that It gives your body a better chance of being a lot healthier than being sour and being negative. So control your thought processes. 3, take a good look at everything in your life and really try to really objectively look at what you can control. And this, again, it might be little things like breathing, which seems little, but for somebody that's struggling with chronic illness might be really big. If it's just, you know what, today is just going to be a little bit better than yesterday, or today I'm just going to accomplish one more thing, or today I'm going to try and see if I can get out of my bed maybe 10 minutes earlier than I thought I could. Maybe today I'm going to exercise a little bit. It doesn't mean that I'm not still struggling. It just means that I'm going to take a little bit more control than what I thought I had. 4, believe that you have it in you. Believe that you actually can take control. This goes kind of hand in hand with getting rid of that word impossible. If you believe that the possibility exists that you could be off of a certain medication, if you believe that, you know what, I didn't think that I could run, but you know what, I'm going to try. I have arthritis, and rheumatoid arthritis is part of my illness, and for a long time I was really afraid to do physical things because I had created, not only was it painful on the days that I really was flaring really bad, or even in the months and weeks that I was flaring really bad, I was very limited at those times. But then there were times that I was healthy and I had still made these physical limitations because I created mental limitations. And I just want you to believe that anything, that you really do have what it takes to get over whatever it is, or to take control over whatever it is that you want to take control over. And the last thing is to just get around positive people. Get around people that are brave enough and love you enough and that you trust enough to kind of push you. And that's a hard thing for people to do when you have a chronic illness. I know for me, I was very defensive because I have very much an invisible disease. And that's kind of this weird complex where you don't want to be sick all the time, you don't want to be sick at all, and yet you find yourself still trying to be successful and still trying to do the best you can, and yet at the same time still having to deal with people that doubt your illness, doctors that don't understand you. You have to fight for treatment sometimes, and so it can create this kind of really weird psychological state where you're like, well, I don't want to be limited by my disorder or my disease, but I still have to really kind of claim it, because if I don't, nobody's going to believe me. I might not get the treatment I need. And so it creates this kind of really weird situation. And for me, I was really defensive when somebody challenged what I thought I could do. Just because it was like, who are you to tell me what I can and can't do? But I have to say today, thank goodness they challenged me. I know it was from a place of love, and I know that it wasn't them questioning whether I had an illness or whether my illness was affecting me. It was them questioning, helping to raise, at least for me to raise the question to myself, is this really all I can do? Maybe if I push really hard, I can do just a little bit more. And that takes just having really positive people, not just sympathizers in your life, not negative people, but people who are willing to push you to just do everything at your highest level. So I hope you understand why I tell you these things and why I wanted to do this video. It is not to, again, and I keep reiterating this because I hope you understand my heart. That is not to say that you don't really struggle with very real issues with chronic illness. It's just saying that, chronic illness doesn't need to have as much control over our lives. we are such amazing creatures that we can control even physical limitations using our brain and using just willpower, a little bit more than what we thought. So I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to this video. I hope this has helped you, and I will be getting the next video out in the next 2 weeks so that I am back on track, and I'm very, very excited to share with you what I've been working on. So next week, I think we're going to be talking about what success in chronic illness really looks like, what it is defined by, and that kind of has a lot to do with how you define success. So wanted to talk to you guys about that in the next 2 weeks, and I hope you guys are feeling healthy and happy, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.